All right, guys, let's get started here. So welcome to DRS Training Series 4 for digital recruiting websites. So what we're going to talk about in this training is we're going to go and take you through the DRS University recap getting started. You can go to youtube.com user official MAWC/playlist to view these. So first is getting started, editing basics, driving traffic and SEO and SEM basics, and creating and promoting email campaigns. So let's take you through what this is, because this is going to be a DRS University Series 4, which is going to be talking about responsive designs. Responsive designs are brand new to the DRS University. So we're going to talk about what they are, why work with them, working with responsive layouts. Up to this point, if you're used to using kind of the fixed version of layouts where you indicate the exact pixels that you want the site to be in areas, it's going to be slightly different, a little bit of a learning curve, but well worth it. We're going to talk about premium responsive layouts as well as options for going responsive. So let's talk about this first, and really it's why should we go responsive and the optimization behind it? Well, really convenience. No longer a need to create separate sites for PCs, tablets, and smartphones. A single responsive site can be created, enhanced, and updated. So really, instead of the older version where you may have had a site that you built, but the site didn't adjust depending on the screen size. So you had to build multiple types of sites and then manage that. With the DRS, we used to be able to have the regular site, and then you could create a mobile version, but that was really two separate areas. Then you had to go and build, maintain, and edit, which just took a little bit more time to do. Consistency. Concerns about keeping PCs and mobile websites updated and looking consistent are now eliminated. So again, it's one site that you're going to maintain, and it's going to show across all different screen types and different systems. SEO is another big one. Search engine optimization concerns related to maintaining multiple websites for PCs and mobile devices are eliminated. A lot of times when you build a mobile site, it doesn't necessarily have the same properties as your regular site, and you'd have to maintain two different versions of those to be seen on a mobile phone or versus a PC screen. So really, this kind of allows you to have one site and then manage just that one site, and that will reflect across any type of device anyone is viewing on, and every one of your efforts can just be built in one area, and it's going to take care of everything, whether someone's going on a desktop, a wide desktop, a tablet, a large phone, a small phone, and your site will still look great. User opinions about mobile, why responsive? Again, your site is going to look incredible on any type of mobile device. So look at some of these user opinions about mobile websites. 40% abandon a site if it takes too long. 67% are more likely to purchase from mobile-friendly websites. 74% are most likely to revisit mobile-optimized sites. 52% are less likely to engage with companies if they have a bad mobile experience. So just look at that. If you don't have a great mobile responsive site, that means half of your audience probably will just not engage, won't go forward, won't do anything, and you won't get that lead. So you're wiping out half of your audience. 87% of American adults have a cell phone, and 88.5% of Lexia top weighted websites are responsive. That just means that almost 100% of the top rated websites that people go to are all responsive sites. So really this is becoming the norm with websites. So statistically, nearly 2/3 of people are visual learners, and visual data is processed much faster than the brain than text. So a lot of videos, a lot of images to explain things. Adding videos to landing pages increased conversions by nearly 90%. Everyone wants to see, just like these webinars. We could have done this in an email, but you're going to learn so much more by having the visuals and having someone walk you through and demonstrate, just like we're going to show you today. More than 90% of marketers now use content marketing. Consumer testimonials are more effective from a form of content marketing. So having people and having them be able to see that is going to enhance that. Content marketing generates 3 times as many leads as traditional outbound marketing, but costs 62% last. So here's a do-it-yourself with our solutions. It's great content, easy to absorb, and you're able to see this. Let me just go back to this screen. So if you look at just even this image, notice that traditionally you would build the large screen there on the desktop, and that would be your site. But now you can see no matter if it's a laptop, a larger tablet, a smaller tablet, an iPhone, that site still looks just like your design, but it's now to the same size as that viewer's eye on whatever mobile presence they're going to be on. Okay, so they look great. So now with the next few slides, I'm also going to minimize this, and I'm going to show you some videos that go right alongside of what we're going to talk about. So this is how responsive is different than the previous fixed widths, which is how all of the previous sites have been built on MA Web Centers, the DRS up to this point. So fixed widths can cause horizontal scrolling on small devices. That means if you tell a website to be a certain width, and then all of a sudden someone tries to scroll on a mobile device, all of a sudden they also have to scroll left to right as well as up and down, which makes it very hard, clunky. Most people won't view it or will leave your site on a mobile device if that's what happens, okay? Now, fluid widths is what is on responsive, and that does adapt the size of the screen so that no matter where it's going to change it and make sure that the images and everything go with it. So a good rule of thumb when you're designing and using responsive websites is you're dealing with percentages, right? Percentage of the screen size they're on. So a good percentage is the width you want to use is about 90% and the max width of your site. So that means if someone ends up going on a huge screen, and instead of having to try to fill the whole screen up, which would make the website look a little clunky, you're going to want to have a max width saying, hey, if they go on a huge screen, we just want to stick to the normal parameters here of 100 to 1200 pixels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this, and I'm actually going to take you through some videos that were done by MA Web Centers to demonstrate exactly how this works. So there's a few for each of these. So right now we're just going to talk about what the difference is between fixed and fluid widths. So let's jump to this real quick. And I'm going to play this video and then we'll pause it and talk about it.
Most websites have their content area set to a width of around 1000 pixels, which will adapt well to most desktop web browsers. However, when viewing the site on smaller devices, this will result in the content leaking over the right edge of the screen. This creates a usability nightmare for visitors as they will need to scroll horizontally back and forth in order to see all of the content.
All right, so you notice how when someone's shrinking the screen, in this example, that they actually are missing a lot of the different content from there, and no longer will they be eligible to read it, can't see it. So they're going to have to scroll left to right, which for more sites, most people will leave just because it's clunky, it's harder to use. Okay, so this is widths. If you do use percentage for the width, watch what happens.
A responsive design should use a fluid width that can adapt to whatever device the visitor is using. Since you will probably want some space between your content and the edges of the screen, a good rule of thumb for content areas is to set a width of around 90% and use the max width field to cap things at around 1000 pixels. This way the content isn't stretched out for desktop viewers, but will nicely fill out the screen for smaller devices.
All right, let me take that back real quick so you guys have the ability to see this. So anytime you hover over any of the areas that have text in a responsive design, you're going to see on the left-hand side, it's going to say Edit, Properties, Move Up, give you a few examples or a few menu items. You're going to want to choose Properties and then go to Advanced. That Advanced tab, when he's there, actually brings you to the ability to edit the width or the percentage of that. So here's where he is now, and he goes to Advanced, and then you can see down here in width, you can set it to the percentage 90, and then you can choose the maximum, meaning you don't want it to go any bigger, even on the largest screen, so it maintains that look and feel of the site you want to do. But the most important is when you shrink it, it's going to adapt, and that's what we'll see in this.
With these settings, the content will adjust to fit the screen of any devices that your visitors use.
Okay, so notice how no matter what he's doing left to right, it's keeping that same look and feel of the site. It's moving the text around, so if someone loads it right from a phone, it's going to be perfect. in exactly the size font that they need to read. They won't have to scroll left to right. And if they happen to be on a desktop or a laptop and they open up a smaller version of the screen, maybe they want to read something on the left and have your site up on the right, they can shrink it and it's still going to look great. So that is the importance of dealing with the widths when you go with percentages versus fixed, as you can see there. Okay, so it's going to change and move the site so it's still legible, still has the same site design as far as text. All right, so let's move to the next slide. And this is side-by-side content working with responsive. So tables cannot fully adapt to smaller devices. Okay, multiple page areas can wrap to the next line when space requires it. So this is allowing different areas to move up and down depending on someone shrinking it left to right. So floating the areas quickly, the quickest to set up in block is more versatile. So we're going to show you when you worked with the older sites, what you may have done, and now with the fixed sites, but when you go with the responsive, if you have things set up next to each other, we're going to want to make sure that they go, and as you shrink, they're going to stack themselves, meaning as they shrink too much, one is going to go above, one's going to go below, and then it's going to have the regular size. So I'll show you an example of that. I'll pause it and explain exactly what's going on. So here's what they mean if you have a table and you want maybe 4 items next to each other in this example.
Using tables to position content side by side is one of the most common design choices for fixed-width websites.
Okay, so the previous, when you built something like this, you have 4 images, you have content that you want to show below, and you want them all next to each other. Here's 4 separate areas. So what most of us did in a fixed website is what we built in tables, which means that you go in the rich text, and then you go up to the this toolbar area, and then you click this, and it allowed you to set up boxes that separated these 4 images and allowed them to go next to each other. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that. But in responsive, there's a better way to do it so that when the screen size is shrinking, they can reorganize themselves. So watch what happens if you decide to use tables in a responsive design.
In the recommended method for 4.0 websites, they are quick and easy to understand and implement. However, their rigid structure means that they are not the best choice for building a responsive design. At smaller screen widths, the table columns can get too narrow for the content to be easily legible, and the table might also stretch off the right side of the screen.
So there we have the same issue that it is shrinking and it is moving even though it's in a table. What ends up happening is that there's a point where it'll stop, and then the user may have to go left to right as well as top to bottom when they're scrolling your site. And then it's actually really difficult to read because they're so jumbled up. We don't like to read 1 or 2 words, at a time when we're reading to left to right. So this is a little clumsy. So there's a better way to do it so that when the screen is shrinking or someone instantly views your site on a smaller screen, they're going to shift how they look. So here's some ways to do that, and there's 2 examples. Let me show you the first one. This is adjacent areas do use float.
The recommended way to create side-by-side content is to create multiple page areas or rich text editors. Once your content is added, you should make sure the total of the width, padding, and margin for each area is equal to or lower than the available space.
Again, so just to clarify, when you hover over any rich text area, you have a menu on the top left that will appear in that area, and you want to choose Properties, then go to Advanced down here, and then you have the ability to do what he's explaining here as far as the width.
Well, on this page, I've made each area have a 21% width and 2% left and right padding.
And let me explain that. So if you're dealing with the whole area being 90% and you have 4 areas you want to show, he's just breaking that up to say, hey, we're going to use around 21% times 4. That gives you close to 80%, plus a little bit of padding means left to right. It's going to be a nice little, almost like a margin, so that when they get squished, it's still going to have a nice space to separate the different areas that we're showing here.
Once these values are set, there are 2 main ways you can make the areas display side by side. The easier method is to set each area to float left and clear none. For smaller screens, you can use the Properties View selector to set the widths of each area to higher values so that the content will wrap down to the next line instead of becoming too narrow to read properly. This kind of adaptability isn't available if you use a table.
All right, so let me explain that. When you're in the advanced section, which you can also, you notice how anytime you bring up the advanced, it kind of takes up just the bottom half of your screen. There is a full screen option on the right-hand side to just take that, and it'll create a separate window. So it's nice and big. You can minimize it. You can maximize it. So when you're working on these sites, it's much easier than just trying to work on this small little section. Sometimes it's quick and you don't need it, but other times it's nice to have that. So just know that when you're in the advanced, you can choose the screen size you're viewing. So desktop, phone view, and then you can actually decide how big that content area is when they're on that device. So sometimes if you want to customize a little more, it's showing up a little weird, you can go in here and tweak it even more so it's absolutely perfect for every device that you're viewing on. So notice right there, when he got to a certain area, it got too narrow because we decided to have a certain percentage. So when it got narrow, it then stacked two of them underneath, two on the top, and then it increased the size so that it's more legible. And then if he keeps on going, it's going to stack it vertically so that there's enough space to read, it's easy, it's clean, and that's how it's going to go. So no matter how, so if you don't use tables, you have the ability for the site to do this and rearrange content to make sure it's still having the same visual appeal as the full site, but just in a narrower view. Okay, so let's look at a second option. That was just one version that you could do. Here's another version of how to create areas where they're all next to each other that will work the exact same way. So no, neither one is right or wrong. It's just your preference. You can use either one of these. So here's to stack it using inline block, and he'll explain what that means.
Another way to set this up is to set the display for each area to inline block. This will make the content appear on the same line as long as there is space available. When creating inline block areas, the total of the width, padding, and margin should add up to slightly less than the available area. So a value less than 100% if you are using percentage. If the columns have different heights, you'll need to set the vertical alignment of each area to top. The advantage of inline block is that you can set the text alignment in the containing area, and the page areas will use that setting. This means that you can set the text alignment to center, and the page areas will always be centered no matter how many are displaying on each line. This makes inline block work a little better than floating if you have areas that need to have a specific size rather than a percent value.
Okay, so the same idea, just a different way to do it. And just to highlight something that was a little different is that you can set the width. We'll go over here.
Width, padding, and margin should add up to slightly less than the available area.
Okay, so you can actually use the different pixel percentages if you wanted to in the inline block, but you do have to go to the text area and arrange it to display at the top because it's usually set to display center, which means that if the block to the left is taller than the block to the right, they're not going to be even. Those images aren't going to be the way you see it. So you just have to set it to top. So this is just one way to do it. It's a little easier if you have, if you want to get a little more exact with things are going to be. But both different versions are exactly the same. I'll play this one more time so it's just a little bit clear. This is a method I use when I use putting different areas like this next to each other horizontally. So this is inline block, again, with adjacent areas, things to the left and right of each other.
Another way to set this up is to set the display for each area to inline block. This will make the content appear on the same line as long as there is space available. When creating inline block areas, the total of the width, padding, and margin should add up to slightly less than the available area. So a value less than 100% if you are using percentage. If the columns have different heights, you'll need to set the vertical alignment of each area to top. The advantage of inline block is that you can set the text alignment in the containing area, and the page areas will use that setting. This means that you can set the text alignment to center, and the page areas will always be centered no matter how many are displaying on each line. This makes inline block work a little better than floating if you have areas that need to have a specific size rather than a percent value.
Okay, excellent. So hopefully that was helpful, easy to understand. It really isn't that difficult. We're just basically tweaking a few things. It's just slightly different than working with fixed valued sites when you're dealing with responsive. And I think it's actually a little bit easier when you design these areas doing it this way. And you'll find that when you start designing them, it gets very easy over time to do that. So that's side-by-side content. How it's different from working with fixed areas using tables and responsive. You want to choose not to work with tables and go with using that inline block or the floating area. Quickest, easiest, and it's going to show up great on all different sizes. Okay, so this is images working with responsive. Now, in the past, when you put in an image and someone were to shrink the size of the screen, the image would stay exactly where it was. It wouldn't resize itself. It would be a stagnant size image. And sometimes what would happen that's even worse is things would overlap if they were on a smaller screen. You may have had people say, or you might even have gone on a website where something was, text was on top of an image and you're wondering why. It was the browser, it was the size screen, it was your laptop, it was your phone, but it looks bad, right? So responsive, you can actually set up the images so that when you are shrinking the size or you're going on a different device and the site loads, it's actually going to reformat the size of that picture so that it's still viewable in the right way on that device rather than cut off or you can't see half of it or you only see part of the picture and it looks kind of goofy on different devices. So let me show you exactly how this works. This is really neat. I really like this feature on responsive.
Images are obviously a huge part of any website design. Unfortunately, the nature of how images are used by web pages means that they do not adjust automatically to the size of the screen, even if the areas they are contained in are set up properly. This can cause content to overlap or create horizontal scrolling. Fortunately, images can be made to scale with the size of their containing area, making them adapt to the size of the screen. You can do this by editing the properties for the RTE the image is in, going to Advanced, selecting Images in the Apply To dropdown, and setting the width to use a percentage.
Okay, so let me just highlight that again. You're going to go to the rich text, hover. On the left-hand side, you're going to choose Properties, and again, you're going to go to Advanced. And then where it says Apply To is always set at default, so you're going to want to switch it to Image. Now, this allows you to tell the site what to choose to do with the image. Do you want to keep it the same size and not change? Or do we want it to adapt to the screen size? In this case, we definitely want to change it to manual 100%.
As long as the containing RTE itself doesn't have a fixed width, the image will scale with the size of the screen.
Okay, so the excellent part about this, and maybe I can rewind, notice how when he's shrinking the screen size, it's shrinking the text and the image, but when there's a certain point where the text is getting too small and the image is getting too small, it's going to actually drop the text below and resize the image so people have a better view of it on a smaller device. There it is. So now they still have the full size and the text would be at the bottom. If they shrink it even more, the screen's smaller, it'll adjust that as well. So this is an excellent feature inside of the responsive site. So just make sure, again, you go to the edit properties and you go to advanced, and then you have to change this apply to images, set that to 100, apply that. You'll be able to have this feature.
The images in the apply to dropdown and setting the width to
so that you can actually have the size of the image now adapt to the screen size. So this is an excellent feature, and you will never have the problem with text bleeding over an image or the image not even be seen. Someone only sees a small part of it. Now they'll always get it no matter what screen size they're on. I kind of hope you're getting the point where as you're looking at this, it still holds the design. It still holds the overall feel of your site. It's not changing it like the old mobile versions or trying to build something else to handle mobile devices or tablet devices. It's going to hold whatever design you have and just adjust it for the user so the experience is what you want for that screen size. All right, so that's images going 100%. Now, font sizes are another one working responsive. Large font sizes can cause unwanted wrapping or horizontal scroll on smaller screens. So this is another one. Maybe if you had a title on a page and someone goes to that page and now it's on a phone or it's a smaller device, all of a sudden that title, the word gets divided. Maybe the first 3 letters stay on the top line, but the last 6 letters get divided below it. And it just makes it kind of an uglier design when someone's looking at this. And again, it's harder to read. No one wants to see a word split between 2 lines simply because the screen is too small. So with responsive sites, we do have the ability to take that text size, still have it be bold and a large font, but just appropriate to the screen size. And this way you don't actually have it dropping 1 line. So let me show you how this font size can change with responsive.
Websites will usually have heading text set to use large font sizes to make the text stand out to the viewer. This works great on desktop screens, but on smaller devices, large fonts can often lead to unwanted text wrapping or even horizontal scrolling.
So this is exactly what we're talking about. So look at that title when you're viewing it on a smartphone or your iPhone, something like that. It actually splits it up and becomes something that's not legible to the end user. Again, this is someone that may have never visited your site. This is your first chance to get them interested, and this is what they're seeing when they go to your site. So we do have a solution for this.
However, if you set the text to have a format such as heading 2, then set the text for that format in Properties rather than using the options in the rich text editor, you can use the View selector to set different sizes for smaller devices. The text will automatically use the setting appropriate for the visitor's screen.
So notice when when the designer chose to choose different sizes, it's actually set to go to smaller sizes, but you can also manually adjust the size of whatever that is called. So when you are going over this in rich text, you need to know what it is when you hover over that word. So notice how it says heading 2. This changes. It might say heading 3, 4, whatever the layout is set to. So just be aware of that. Find what it's set to. And then when you go to the properties and then you go to the advanced section, the text, you can click on heading 2, whatever that title was, and then you can adjust the size and then go to the different views on the left and choose how it's going to view on the different devices. It should be set where it reduces it, but you have the ability to change if you want to get even more customized than that.
The text will automatically use the setting appropriate for the visitor's screen.
And there he is changing it on the bottom. Now as he shrinks the screen size, notice how the title is actually going to reduce the font size so it's still legible even though it's in a smaller screen size. Okay, so that's working with fonts, and that usually is dealing with titles that tend to bleed over or divide up into different lines when it goes smaller. Now you have the ability to keep it the same and change it per screen size. Okay, navigation with responsive. So the old version, sidebar navigations worked well on desktop screens, but smaller screens or smaller devices will quickly run out of room to have both sidebar and main content. All right, so setting different properties using View Selector will allow you to have a sidebar for some devices and a top menu for others. So let me show you exactly what this looks like and how this works.
A popular design choice is to have the website's main navigation appear as a vertical sidebar rather than a horizontal bar. This can be done using either of the float or inline block methods we discussed earlier. One thing to keep in mind is that on smaller devices, the lower amount of space available could cause your content to be squeezed a little bit thinner than you would like. Using the Properties View selector, you can choose to have the smaller devices use different width and display settings. allowing you to have a vertical sidebar on large screens and a horizontal bar on smaller screens. The responsive templates have pre-built settings for phone navigation, so you mainly need to create your settings for the top 3 device sizes.
Excellent. So notice how if you decide to do a navigation bar on the left side, usually it's on the left side, and that's your preference for the desktop version, you have the ability now with this to choose when it's going to go to the top to be a horizontal so that it allows enough room on a small device for someone to still read the content and navigate through your site. So that's an excellent option to use that we weren't available in fixed sites. And let's go to the final, and not final, but the final visual as far as an audio to take you through in a visual format. How this works is backgrounds, working with responsive. Now, backgrounds on smaller devices, less horizontal space meant content would take up more vertical space on the typical or traditional fixed websites. This caused background images to behave unexpected and unwanted ways. So let me show you how this works, and this will be our final demonstration video on this webinar.
On smaller devices, there's less horizontal space for content to fit in, so we'll end up using more vertical space. This can cause a background image that appears great on a desktop screen repeat on smaller screens. Be sure to take this into account by using images that will look fine if repeated, setting the background to not repeat, or using the Properties View selector to use different images for different sizes.
Okay, so just be aware when you actually use that background to keep in mind exactly what they had in mind. Now you have the ability to set this to be at the bottom and not repeat, or you can choose to repeat it, but just realize that when something's shrinking and you have to deal with the fact that it might cause more space vertically, that image doesn't have anywhere to go, or it's not going to look as great in the responsive version, and the responsive can't drag it out because that would even look worse as well if it morphed the vision to fit the screen. So the best thing to do is find something that when repeated looks great, or you can set it to always display at the bottom, and then just make sure it looks normal so it doesn't look cut off. So just play with it when you're using backgrounds. Backgrounds aren't necessarily the best thing to use because they kind of tamper with how well someone can read the text on top of it. But if you're choosing to use it, just make sure it's something that can repeat. Or maybe if it's at the bottom and the screen is constantly growing, that it doesn't affect how it looks on that device. So something to just be aware of when designing really any type of site, and responsive when it's going to change the size. So here's some options for going responsive. And this is obvious through explorema.com. MA Web Center clients have a variety of options for getting their website designed. The layout of the website along with your site's content are critical to help you establish an effective internet presence. So here's some examples of what you can do to get your site to be exactly what you want. You have the do-it-yourself layouts in responsive. So all of our website packages come with free layouts, free responsive layouts, and the ability to custom design your own site. Now, we do have videos already that I showed you on YouTube where you can go, and that is for the fixed layouts. But you also have the ability now to get free responsive layouts. And my opinion is this: if you're designing within these, is to keep it basic. Use the layouts that they have. Edit the images where they are. You can add different areas based on what we just trained you in this and how to add that content. But it's something that I feel most people can build with a little bit of practice and design something that will work very well for you. Now, there's also premium responsive layouts. So each layout comes with 10 rich, compelling content pages and important business process streamlining features like appointment and reservation scheduling forms that come with these beauts, okay? So these are just taking what the responsive layouts that I showed you in the do-it-yourself, and these are a little bit more elaborate, a little bit more content built in, a few more features built into this, so a little more rich than the free versions. So a lot of the work as far as design and how it functions is all done for you. So it's a lot easier to then just input your own content, your own information on how it's going to work. Now, if you want MA Web Centers to custom build and design, you have the ability to do that through the design packages. So all of our design packages are designed inside the editable MA Web Centers platform. So you have the flexibility to maintain your content and add more pages in the future. The only difference is now you have the staff that's actually going to take and design the site exactly how you want within the design package that you chose. Okay, so here are the options for going responsive. Again, do it yourself. The premium layouts, which is there's a cost for that if you decide to choose one of those layouts. You can custom layout package. So that's taking what you have and they're just going to customize the home page and content page for you as well. And then there's some other paid services like the classic design package, which is a custom home page, content page, up to 5 custom pages, a customized newsletter design, mobile design. So they're going to tweak it and make sure when the site is responsive on all different devices on mobile that it looks just as great on mobile as it does on your desktop. They're going to set up your domain and emails, and they're also going to schedule a 30-minute tutorial to walk you through your new site and how to maintain it in the future. And then you have your professional package. That's going up to 10 pages, including everything that you saw in the classic. So really, you have a lot of different options. You have the ability to just go ahead and work with what the free layouts are. You have the ability to have more advanced layouts and pay a small fee for that. Or you can decide to go a custom route and have MA Web Centers web designers design that for a fee or design your entire site. And it really is absolutely worth it if it's something you want to do, to have the site looking exactly how you want without having to learn all the design skills and sit there and design a whole custom site yourself. These are the best options to go with. Okay, live chat support, and these are the different places you can plug in for support. So you can obviously follow official MA Web Centers on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram, official MAWC. That's the same on Twitter. YouTube is a great resource. So if you want to see this video and the other videos, the DRS series that we've taken you through up to this point, that's where you want to log into youtube.com, and that's MA Web Centers Official. There's a product website, mawebcenters.com. There's the newsletter. That's something you want to subscribe to, newsletter at mawebcenters.com. Client-facing blog, and then design center samples. You can check that out to see what those look like, and client educational webinars just like this one that you are viewing right now. So let's recap what we just demonstrated over here. Make sure you complete these steps before advancing to the next webinar series that you're going to see next month. Responsive designs make your content easier to absorb. Okay, users agree, and optimized viewing experience is important. So take everything you've learned up to this point, and you can begin to build a site if you choose DRS in a responsive design and have it viewable no matter what screen you're on, easy to manage, and all your SEO works seamlessly between all different types of devices you're on there. Okay, Series 5 highlight is going to be, it was create lead capture page, how to add new pages, how to create forms, and how to enable YouTube videos in that. So here's something I do want to add before we finish this, is I want you to make sure you review all these videos. A lot of these are demonstrating type of videos, just like we took you through, walking you through responsive versus fixed and how to just make a few tweaks to make everything work the way you want to. There is a small learning curve, but these videos would help to minimize that and give you live examples of what exactly you should do so that you have the responsive look, layout, and have your website function the way you want to. Always use live chat support as well. This is a big feature. Be patient. They do handle lots of people asking questions. So be patient, but they're going to be able to answer any questions you have and help you with anything that may not appear correct. I'm in the same learning curve with responsive designs myself. I've done hundreds of sites using fixed layouts, so this is kind of almost relearning everything. But as you go through, you'll realize you'll start learning them a lot faster using the support that is available. And 100% of everything I'm learning is using live chat support. And you can also leave specific questions in video comments. You can also ask them in the Facebook group as well. So you have a lot of different places where you can get questions answered. Again, just be patient, have fun with this. This should be a great process. and a useful process, and it's going to create a great tool for you. There's one thing I want to add before finishing this video is that if you have a fixed website, meaning one of the older layouts, all right, and you decide to want to switch to a responsive, I do want to warn you that when you switch any design, it's going to then reset the content and the pages to be whatever that is set up to be. So for instance, if you built your DRS site and you have 12 pages of content right now and you've customized it, and now you want to change to a responsive layout, when you click that responsive site, it's going to delete the content and only upload the pages on that responsive layout. So let's say it's 5 default pages, that's what you're going to get. So you may want to save all the content that you currently have as far as text and images. They will still be available in the back filing cabinet manager, so you won't lose the files, but you will lose the pages that you've built up to this point. It's going to reset just the standard layout. So you may just want to go through all those areas, save it, put it on some notes or a WordPerfect document, and don't publish your site because the old site will be seen while you can work on your responsive site. So you can still pull content off that way. So that was just one thing I want to warn you before you decide to make any big changes. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'll stay on. Just ask them here, or you can also ask them on Facebook, and I can answer them there. So thank you so much, guys, for your time. I appreciate it. Good luck. Have fun. We'll see you next month.